Okay, so this video is going to be, I'm going to go over a student sample with you. I do have about 4 student samples in 2 places. We have a student sample link in the blue left side of the screen navigation bar, and it'll just say student samples. All of the assignments that you've had that have been major assignments, I've provided student samples, but also in the proposal essay folder, I have included a link to student samples. So one of the things that has occurred in the last year is APA went through a formatting upgrade, and they went to 7th edition. So I've been trying to update all of my student samples. I usually don't edit or change a student sample, but it's kind of been tough because with 6th edition, some of the things were different, such as the cover page, and titles are now highlighted, and there are a couple of things that changed with 7th edition. If you go to resources, to the resources tab, I do have some links there to help with 7th edition formatting, but I went through and I changed Student 4 sample to APA 7th edition, and it's titled and identified that way. Previous to the 7th edition, there would have been a running head here, and then when APA updated to 7th edition, student writing will not use the header anymore, so you will not have any kind of running head at the top. If you see that in a student sample, don't replicate that, because you want to just have it like this. You will have the page number though, and you're going to have to format that. You'll just go in and insert a page number and put it in the corner. If you're not sure how to do that, you can look in YouTube and you can probably get a how-to video there. All right, you're going to have a cover page. On that cover page, your title needs to be in bold. Then I've got student 4 here because I took the student's name out, but you would put your name here. Then you're going to identify how your paper or how your research is affiliated. So in this case, we're just going to keep it simple. Just put English Department, Johnston Community College. Our actual department is called USET, University Studies and Educational Foundations, but I'm going to kind of give you a break, and you can just put English Department there. Then you're going to put English 112 and your section number. I put it in parentheses just to remind you. You're going to put my name as your instructor, and then you're going to put the date. Next, when we go to the abstract, and I'm just going to sort of take the time here to explain abstract to you. I do have instructions posted, and I have links to instructions with handouts for the abstract. But basically, when you write a research paper that requires an abstract, you need to write the essay first, and then before you complete the whole process of doing the final draft for the essay, you need to write a brief 1 paragraph, basically. Usually they can be as short as 250 words, just a brief summary of the essay. So obviously you cannot write a summary until the essay has been written. So even though the abstract comes the page after the cover sheet, that is written last. So the writer of the work gives the reader an abstract or an overview paragraph, a summary of what is to come. Many of you have seen abstracts in your scholarly research. This is a common thing that is provided for readers of academic work, because it's a good way to just sort of preview the writing, preview the publication, to see what is to come. Think of it like a movie preview. A lot of times if you're going through Netflix, you'll sort of, they'll have a little synopsis there, and you're not sure, do you want to watch the movie or watch the show or whatever. If you go to a movie theater, they'll do the previews for movies that will be coming out. It's just sort of a highlight reel, sort of what's going to be in the essay to come, but always write it last. In the abstract, you do want to feature the claim statement. You want to feature whatever the thesis, the main purpose of the writing is, and then you want to just give a brief overview. You do not have to include any in-text citations or any research there. It's supposed to be more of a summary and more of a broad view of the whole paper. After the abstract, and the abstract does sit on the page alone, so it should not be part of the main essay or part of the cover page. It's just on its own sheet, and you're going to have to ensure that it's formatted that way. One of the things you can do is once you've written the abstract, go down to a page, and then you can go to Insert and go over here to Page Break. If you put in a page break, it will ensure that the next page will start, and you're not putting the abstract on another sheet. Okay, so I need to adjust this formatting a little bit. As we know, formatting will always revert back to something else, or spaces will be inserted. One of the things that I would suggest with Blackboard shifting formatting is to save this as a PDF document. And that way when you turn it in, it will preserve the formatting that existed when you finish the paper. Notice that the title is repeated on the first page of the actual essay. It should be centered. This is a pretty long title, and it should be in bold. So all titles in APA 7th edition are in bold. Notice that the page numbers are on each page, and they should be in Times New Roman font. Everything in the whole paper will be in Times New Roman font. If you're not sure, just sort of click on it, go to Home, and see, this is not. So it didn't look right, so that's why I sort of checked it. You're going to make it Times New Roman, and that should adjust all of them just by doing one. I think maybe not. Let me see. Okay, let me go over here to Home, Times New Roman. Okay. Sometimes it's hard, like even me, I'm used to seeing a lot of different fonts, but I can usually determine if it's not Times New Roman pretty easily. Okay, so you do want to check. If that is not in Times New Roman, then you have not, you're sort of defaulting the formatting there. All right, make sure you're indenting all of your paragraphs. I've noticed that some of you are doing block paragraphs. That is not how you're supposed to present an academic essay. So make sure each paragraph is indented. All right, so here we see that the student has done an introduction, just like we talked about in the outline. And this particular student was very thorough in this. I remember this one. It was a male student. He was very thorough with his introduction, and that's okay. He made some choices to include some very specific details. And that's okay. He put some of his data in the introduction. You are not required to do that. This was a very technical student. He was going to be an engineer. And when he wrote, I really enjoyed reading his work, but he was always very technical and very specific and very meticulous with his details. More commonly, an introduction paragraph is not this detailed, but it's okay. He did a very good job with it. So let's just look at his attention grabber. He writes, and I'm just going to sort of highlight it for you so that we can identify it. He's trying to get the attention of the reader, to get us as readers invested in the topic and the proposal itself. So his attention grabber is the United States, and notice how he spells out United States and then he puts the abbreviation in parentheses. A lot of y'all are getting this wrong. You are putting the abbreviation and then putting the full spell, the full term in parentheses. That's wrong. Anytime you have an abbreviation, you have to spell it out with the first usage and then put the abbreviation in parentheses, and then after that you can just use the abbreviation. Anyway, so his attention grabber is the United States is one of the many countries that produces vast amounts of greenhouse emissions daily. So what he is saying here is that as a country, the United States, we produce a lot of pollution in our country. He follows up that initial, and I told you this student was very thorough. He starts out with a very broad statement, but then he sort of has a secondary attention grabber by stating, consequently, the atmosphere is weakened and the environment is getting polluted. So he's trying to get buy-in from the reader to be invested in this problem, be invested in this solution that he's going to propose. He goes on to keep our attention with some statistics and some percentages to, really drive home this point that the United States is producing a lot of pollution, and he's going to start to narrow it. When you look back at the student sample, you'll see that he starts to narrow it to the housing industry, because he started off very broad just about pollution, and then he's going to begin to narrow it because this particular student wanted to I think he wanted to go into construction management engineer, as an engineer. So he was going to engineer homes, and he was interested in environmental friendly construction. So he wanted to look at high energy and energy efficient homes. So anyway, I'm not going to read everything to you, but he chose to put some quotes and some statistics in his introduction, which is fine. So here we're going to look at his claim statement. Notice how the claim statement is last. I do not want it hidden somewhere in that introduction. I don't want to see it first. You have to build the introduction correctly, and the claim statement, the proposal, the proposition needs to be last, because that's what is featured before we start the main part of the proposal. So his claim statement reads, the U.S. should consider modifying the building codes. So he's proposing this change. With these changes, then builders could start constructing high energy efficient homes regularly, which in turn will not only benefit the environment, but also the homeowners. So he is telling us right here, and this is what you have to do with your proposal, he is telling us what he is going to prove and what he is proposing as a change to solve the problem of homes not being energy efficient, homes creating more pollution. So this is tied in very well, and he's constructed this paragraph well. So that's an excellent example of how to show the claim statement, how to position it, and then how to go from broad to specific in the introduction. Next, we're going to see that he has a background paragraph where he includes some information about conservation of energy, residential home information, and just trying to build some structure to the argument so that the reader is invested and the reader is knowledgeable about this topic. One of the things that some students do not do, and this is a requirement of all good writing, is every single paragraph you write must have a topic sentence. You, as the writer, must host the reader, and you have to show the reader what is going to come in that paragraph. You cannot start out with a quote. You do not need to start off with a statistic or a question. You need to be very specific and very regimented with your writing, and every single paragraph has to have that topic sentence with a main idea. The main idea in that topic sentence shows the reader what will be shown in that paragraph. Okay, so a lot of people don't like English because they like math better, because math has formulas. And I always say English also has formulas. One of the formulas is to include a topic sentence with a main idea for every paragraph, so that you have provided the proper amount of information for the reader, so they're not coming into the middle of a conversation. Imagine if you start with a quote, or if you start with a fact in a paragraph, it's like walking into the middle of someone having a conversation and you didn't understand how it started. So you have to provide that clarity to your reader. So this topic sentence is very basic. A high energy home can benefit the homeowners in many ways. So the author here, the writer, is going to explain how high energy homes can help the homeowner. And this is background. Basically what this writer is doing is establishing worth to the proposal and showing, the argument has started. So I've sort of told you with the proposer, you're sort of arguing a point and you're trying to convince the reader or the audience to buy in and believe and agree to this proposal. So as I said, the student is very meticulous, and he has included a lot of cost, percentages, statistics, all sorts of things from his research. Notice here that with APA, and this was true prior to 7th edition, it's true still, whenever you mention an author, you have to follow the author's name with the date of publication. One of the things I often say with APA is, it's a very technical form of formatting. And so they want to show the significance and the relevance of the research. So they like the date to go with the author to show that this was written in this year. So in this case, this was written in 2014. It's fairly recent, so it's okay. I believe this paper is a few years older, so when it was written, it was even more recent, with the 2024 marking. So in this case, he's mentioned the author, and then this is a little bit of an error. This should be capitalized, the E in the title, but he's mentioned the author and he includes the year. And then if you notice at the end, because this particular article didn't have page numbers, there's no in-text citation. But that's okay, because the author is included, the year, and the title of the work. Now, if the author was not mentioned, you would have to have an in-text citation at the end of the sentence, and it would include the author and the year of publication. These are all things that you should have reviewed when we went over APA formatting earlier in the semester, but you can also always use those style resources and go back and check, like, what am I being asked to do with establishing the credibility. One thing to remember is, if you do not use in-text citations, if you do not identify the author and the title, or if there's no author, just the title of the publication, it is plagiarism. Because if you present it without in-text citations, if you have not identified where this information originated, then you are claiming it as your own and you're stealing it. And in academic environments, that is plagiarism. We do not steal ideas. We do not steal words from other people. That is an honor code violation. I have to turn it in to student services. Major universities will kick you out of the class and or the school. It is a very serious conduct violation, and you may think, oh, that is not going to happen. I can't tell you the number of students who have contacted me after they've graduated from JCC, they've gone on to a university, and they've made a slight mistake, and I mean a very minor mistake, such as leaving the end quotation off of a quote. They did it at the beginning, but didn't do it at the end of the quote, and they had a conduct hearing that they had to go to see if they were going to be able to remain a student at that university. So I would not play around with that. Every little thing needs to be checked. Anytime you use anyone else's words, you have to identify it with in-text citations or identification in the phrasing of the information. So in this case, this is why he doesn't have an in-text citation. I'm going to see if there's another place for an in-text citation. This student was pretty savvy. Okay, here we go. This sentence here, you can see that people spend approximately 90% of their time inside a building, and the majority of these buildings are not environmentally friendly. So notice in that sentence, that is a fact that was gathered from the research. In that phrasing of that sentence, there was no mention of the author, the title, anything about the publication, so it's not tied to anything on the references page. Remember, everything in your essay must tie into that references page and must pair with it. So that's what the references page is, so that I can go back and see what that source was. So here, in parentheses, this is the in-text citation. Turner and Vaughan are the authors, and the publication was 2012. So when I go look to see where this came from with the citations, I'll look for Turner. So that's identifying it. Also notice that he has a good topic sentence here. So everything he has is topic sentence. I want to find a quote, and then we're going to go over how to properly present a quote. Okay. I'm not saying this is the best way. This is not a stellar example, but some of you are presenting quotes alone. I think that some high school classes and teachers may allow quotes to just be dropped in to the text of a paragraph, but in college level writing, you can never put a quote alone, and that just means the quote sits alone with no other phrasing, into a paragraph. You have to integrate that quote into the phrasing of the paragraph. Too many of you are doing lazy writing and you're just plopping quotes all over the place and expecting me as the reader to figure out what it means. You have to add context to the quote in relation to the rest of the paragraph. So this is an example. He did a little transition word here. Moreover, the U.S. building codes, and he really probably should not have capitalized that, but the U.S. building codes are written by regional and local authorities, which use the standards determined by the professional organizations as guidelines. And then he's given me the authors and the date. He's done the quotations here. Some of you are taking that out and just putting the quote in. So I'm going to see. Let's see if I can cut it. Okay. Some of you are doing this, where just the quote, and you're expecting me just to apply it somehow. That is a huge mistake with academic writing, and too many of you are doing it. You just think, oh, she told me I had to have some quotes and some sources, I'm just going to plop that in. Do not do that. So you have to use, and don't ever write according to this quote, because remember, you're quoting it from the source. It's a quote because you're using it in your writing. Don't identify it as a quote. That's poor writing. It's a quote because you used it. Oh, I know it's a quote because you're using quotation marks. You don't have to identify it as a quote. Instead, you need to write, and this is a good example, this student 4 example of how to integrate quotes with phrasing that goes along with the other sentences in the paragraphs. So I know that seems super picky, but it is lazy writing, and it's not okay in academic writing environments. Okay, so here, so I didn't really go through and identify each part, but he has established in these previous paragraphs what the problem is, how to solve it, and what he's suggesting is the solution to this problem. Here we get to the concession area, which I told you is sort of at the end of the essay. And so he, in his topic sentence, he states, an opposite viewpoint on high energy efficient homes is that some people find it too expensive to build this type of home. Now, he chose to include the words opposite viewpoint. You don't have to do that because there are many ways you can phrase that, but you want to identify this as a different viewpoint than the one established in the essay. So, as I've stated in other videos, a lot of times the opposing viewpoint or the opposition to this idea being implemented or this change happening, sometimes it has to do with cost because things are more expensive with the change. In his case, he was right. This would be the one thing with building a home. If you try to put in solar panels or certain energy efficient elements into a home, it makes the home more expensive to build. One of the things he argued in his proposal in the essay was that in the long run, the homeowner saves money because they have a more energy efficient home and their electric bill is less. And sometimes you can get governmental kickbacks and grants and things to do the energy efficient parts of the home. But anyway, he goes in here, and so he says that yes, it's expensive, but then he's going to show the other side, and here's where his refutation is. So you're going to want to show the other side, and then you're going to want to circle back to your side of the argument, because you never want to give it all away to, yes, my argument doesn't work. You want to bring it back to your side. So here he says, although the price is near the million, these types of homes can be beneficial and further down the road pay back the money spent to the owner by reducing the home energy bill and are selling energy to the local utilities. There's a thing that if you, and I don't understand it fully, but you can do solar panels and then you can sell back some of that energy to the energy companies in the area, and then you get sort of an income from the solar panels to sort of pay back the cost of installing them in your home, not to mention less money spent on the utility bills. But that is something that is true. So anyway, he goes in there and he brings it back to his side. Yes, it's true that it's expensive, but if you have an energy efficient home, in the long run, you'll save money, and you may even make a little money if you sell back that energy to the utility companies. Here he is going to repeat his claim statement, just rephrase it. High energy efficient homes can greatly impact and protect the environment by reducing greenhouse emissions through features such as solar panels and advanced heating cooling systems. So it's not the same exact claim, but he's just rephrased it to remind the reader what was just proven. And then he was very efficient with his conclusion as well. He really gave a very specific and complete conclusion. Notice that on his references page, all of his citations are in alphabetical order. I think I've checked through all of the citations, and they are in APA 7th edition. For the most part with APA 7th edition, the publications are italicized, but the titles of the articles are not. Another thing to remember is with APA, the first word is capitalized, and then if there's any punctuation, if there's another part to the title after the punctuation, you'll capitalize the first word after that. But in this case, this was just a short title. If there are any proper nouns, such as United States, then those would be capitalized as well. Notice that the first initial is only used, not the full name. Some of you are using MLA formatting, and that includes the full name, but APA does not. And then for the most part, since most of your sources are electronic ones, you're going to include the URL or the DOI. DOI is Digital Object Identifier, and that is becoming more common because it's more of a permanent address for the website or for the link. Okay, I was trying to see if there was one in here that had a two-part title, but I don't know that he had one. This was a mistake he made. He was trying to follow the rules. This should be capitalized because it's a proper noun. So United States should be capitalized here. Slight mistake, but here's one without an author. So he started with the title. If there's no author, you go to the next level and you start with the title of the article. And this is another one without an author. So sometimes with the electronic articles, you do not have authors, so that's okay. Yeah, he didn't have any two-part titles, but if you do have a two-part title, if there's any punctuation like a colon or a question mark or a period, and then there's a second part to the title, immediately after the punctuation, you'll capitalize that word. So anyway, hopefully going over the student sample will help you. This is another slight mistake that he made. You should only double space, never include any additional spaces. So I hope this helped you. So let's count the pages. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this student stuck with the 5 minimum. That's fine. This is a very well written, very concise and well written and presented essay. So he was in compliance with the assignment. Notice that on his 5th page, he did not complete the 5th page, but he had enough on that page that I gave him credit for it. I usually say half to 3/4. I probably gave him a little grace on that last page because it was right at the halfway mark, but I do give him credit for the full last page. So I hope that makes sense. If you have any questions about the student samples, please let me know. We're not going to say the changes, but I have not converted all of the student samples to 7th edition. Right now I only have one converted. I may have the time to convert some more, but please be aware that some of them are in the previous edition of APA and not with the updated one, but you do have one that you can use. I would look at the other ones though, just for content. I think that those will help you with seeing how they integrated quotes, how they did the topic sentences, and how they presented the argument. Okay, I look forward to reading your proposals, and if you have any questions, please reach out to me and let me know.